Hello and welcome to the programme, wherever in the world you're joining us from. We begin with events in China and Canada, where what appears to be an exchange of detainees has taken place. The trans-Pacific flights involved the Huawei executive Meng Wanzhou and two Canadian nationals, Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig. Ms. Meng was fighting an extradition order from Canada, which could have seen her stand trial on financial charges. The two Michaels were held in China on spying charges, shortly after Ms. Meng was detained in Canada. But all three are now in their home countries, as our North America correspondent Nomi Iqbal reports.
After more than 1,000 days away from home, Meng Wanzhou arrived back in Shenzhen. A crowd of well-wishers were there to greet her.
The long wait abroad was full of struggles and sufferings, but when I walked down the staircase and landed on the ground, I'm thrilled by the warmness from the hometown. It's beyond words. The motherland, I'm back.
Meng Wanzhou is the financial officer for Huawei, the world's largest telecom manufacturer. She was arrested in 2018. The US alleges she misled banks into processing transactions with a company based in Iran, breaching American sanctions. Her case was complicated by the fact she's the daughter of the founder of Huawei. After years of legal wrangling, she secured a deal with US prosecutors by admitting to misleading a bank. Elsewhere, two Canadians also arrived home. Former diplomat Michael Kovrig and businessman Michael Spavor had been under arrest for the same amount of time as Meng Wanzhou. China says this wasn't related to her case, but they released the men almost instantly after she was freed. Critics have called it hostage diplomacy.
These two men have gone through an unbelievably difficult ordeal. For the past 1,000 days, they have shown strength, perseverance, resilience, and grace, and we are all inspired by that.
Both men maintained their innocence throughout.
I find myself at a loss for words because the moment is so incredible. It's finally here.
A diplomatic crisis has been averted for now, but Huawei remains on a trade blacklist here and still faces charges of corporate espionage, allegations China denies. Nomi Iqbal, BBC News, Washington.
Well, David Loffman is a partner at the law firm Wigan & Dana, but previously of the US Department of Justice, where he oversaw enforcing US sanctions laws, including parts of the investigation into Huawei and Ms. Meng, and joins us now. Mr. Loffman, thank you very much for being with us. What was your role in this investigation?
Well, part of my responsibilities as chief of the Counterintelligence and Export Control Section was to oversee the Justice Department's enforcement of U.S. export control and sanctions laws. And as you and your viewers may understand, the case against Huawei has a lot to do with the violation of U.S. sanctions laws against Iran, as did the case against Ms. Meng, although she was charged with defrauding the bank rather than carrying out a violation of U.S. sanctions laws.
This was ultimately really a disagreement between the US and China, but central to all of it, of course, was Canada. Talk us through the deal that brought about the freedom of Ms. Meng.
Well, I don't have any non-public visibility into what happened, but it appears on the face of it that there was a multilateral sensitive agreement reached between the United States government, the Canadian government, and the Chinese government, all hinged together, under which she would admit to a number of factual statements that comprised part of her deferred prosecution agreement, including the things she said to an unnamed bank were untrue, that led that bank to continue to engage in financial transactions in U.S. denominated dollar transactions, transiting the U.S. financial system to benefit Huawei and its partner with respect to business activities in Iran. Look, I mean, I can't think of any case quite like this where the U.S. government has entered into a deferred prosecution agreement like this in exchange for the release of two nationals of a foreign country who were just taken captive as part of a thug-like hostage taking. That's exactly what happened here. I'm thankful for the two Michaels' safe return to Canada, but it does set a bit of a dangerous precedent in the future of countries like the United States and Canada are carrying out their laws under their legal systems. And her case was going through the Canadian legal system, and she was losing at every turn, and suddenly have to pull the plug because its nationals have been put in peril in some authoritarian other country.
China has repeatedly maintained that the detention of the two Michaels has nothing to do with the detention of Ms. Meng, but this must cause some concern amongst Canadians who were perhaps planning to visit China or have family in China, and potential long-term future implications for the relations between the two countries.
Well, I think the major irritant between Canada and China has now been removed. They have allowed Ms. Meng to return to Canada. But look, there is a high-risk environment, not just for Canadian nationals, but Western business executives who are working or traveling to China. They are at risk for being taken captive, being detained on ruse, pretense in exchange for something else the Chinese want. That's just the way things work in China. If the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party want it to work that way, and as long as everybody understands what the risk environment is for doing business in China, then people can make appropriate judgments.
And what about in the other direction? You used the phrase earlier on, delayed prosecution. Is there still a sword of Damocles hanging over Ms. Meng's head?
There is, if she violates the terms of the agreement. She's prohibited, for example, from making any statements that contradict the factual statements that she has now said under oath are true. So if she suddenly were to hold a press conference in China and say, I never had anything to do with this PowerPoint they're talking about that tried to hide our relationship with this other company doing business in Iran, if she contradicts the factual statements she's made, then the U.S. government can go before the district court in New York and seek to withdraw from this agreement, and she would be subject to prosecution all over again. Hard to say whether she'll be careless in her international travel, as she arguably was when she traveled to Vancouver a few years ago. But she certainly would be at risk of rearrest if she violates the terms of this agreement and the Justice Department were to go before the court of New York and get the court to, withdraw this agreement.
David Loughman, formerly of the US Justice Department. Very good to get your insights. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.